didn't do this, as I always do. We want you to run for office. And you don't think you can do it, but the people out there that can run for office, how many of you think you'd be a worse president than George Bush? I want to close with a story that some of you may have heard, and I apologize, but too bad. Because it talks about the one thing that we have to do to win, that we haven't talked about yet. We've talked about organizing. We've talked about organizing early. We've talked about having a strong message, a national message, based on values and principles, not just a list of issues. And we've talked about being in all 50 states. But I want to close with this story because it illustrates the one thing that if we do all those things, we don't do this, we can't win. When I was campaigning for president, there was a lady who'd done a great deal for us, who lived in New Jersey. And she was doing yet another fundraiser for us. And she had a guest list of very important people, the former president of Harvard, the former president of Princeton, a lot of people who write big checks to our campaign. And one of the guests was her 30-year-old daughter, who was a school teacher from Texas. And so after the dinner, we were talking, and the conversation went around to discussing the separation of church and state. And everybody was saying how important they thought that was in a diverse society, and then the president was wrong on that issue, and so forth. And all of a sudden, a young school teacher from Texas piped up and said, "Now, Governor, just a second. I'm an evangelical Christian. We don't believe in the separation of church and state. We believe this is a Christian nation." And you could have heard a pin drop. And we sort of changed the subject and moved along and talked about other things. And at the end of the night, I was thanking everybody for coming to the dinner and supporting me. And I went up to this young lady and I said, "How is it that you happen to support me as an evangelical Christian? You can't possibly agree with my views on equal and civil rights for every single American, and you can't possibly agree with my view that a woman has a right to better health care." And she said, "We don't. Some of your positions are deeply troubling to us. But we support you for two reasons. The first is that our child has polycystic kidney disease. And in Texas, that means that not only can we get no health insurance for our child, we can't get health insurance for anybody in our family. And we think that everybody should have health insurance. But the real reason that we support you is that evangelical Christians are people of deep conviction. And you're a person of deep conviction. And what we want to know more than anything else is that if something happens to our family, or something happens to our community, or something happens to our country, that the people who are making decisions for us are not doing it based on focus groups and polls, but they are doing it out of conviction. We can win as Democrats. We do not need to be like the Republicans to do it. In fact, that's a prescription for losing. Look at their failures. We don't want to copy them. That we can win is to stand up for what we believe as Democrats and fight for things that are important